Okay, yes, we are officially live.
And in 2024.
And in 2024, we made it.
Yep.
Yay!
We actually made
That's
it.
not everyone's testimony. So, hello, y'all. Welcome to the first Truthful Chat of the new year, 2024.
Yeah, so you know how last week we were talking about resolutions versus intentions versus, and we were kind of leaning more toward the intentions part.
Who got resolutions out there? Let me see them. Put them in the chat.
We were talking about just being better and reflection on what your intention was for 2024, which I think gives you more room to move around in what you want to do and not feel bad if it doesn't actually come like you are. I am going to do. No, my intention is to be this type of person in 2024. Overall. And then the rest of it will kind of come in for you. So, New Year's Eve, I was kind of reflecting on that, what I wanted to be in 2024. What did I want our family to have more of in 2024? Not necessarily we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. But this is the feel, these are the feelings and the intentions I wanted us to have. So I got these 4 words all day. It started on my way to church, and then I got another one in church, and then I got another one at New Year's Eve service at watch meeting, and they all started with C. First one was compassion. The second one was consideration. The third one was communication, and the fourth one was cooperation. And so I said, these are kind of building blocks, I feel like, for where we're going to go next year, or where my intention is that we go next year. So today we're going to focus on the first C, which is compassion. So if you want to learn more about compassion, how it works, how it's different from empathy, how it's different from sympathy, we're going to talk about that a little bit. And stick around.
You know what to do. This
episode is for you. Hi, I'm Pam Williams, a mother.
And I'm Jessica E. Williams, a daughter. And this is a mother and a daughter truthful chat, where we discuss our 35-year multi-layered relationship.
We've been through so many ups and downs. Not only are we family, but we're business partners in the high-stress world of event planning and production for short films.
We've also shared the same therapist for over 10 years. What some people call codependence, we call collaboration.
So join us as we share stories from our lives,
have candid conversations with other mother-daughter duos,
and shed light on the roller coaster ride of being a woman while raising a woman.
Y'all know what time it is. Cups up.
Welcome. I got my sweater cup today.
I don't know what this is. This is giving Michael Jackson black and white. It's black, it's white. Yeah.
Or it could be giving you, was that Ebony and Ivory? Was that part of that song or a different song? I don't know.
Anywho, welcome to Truthful Chats. If you spent last year with us, welcome back. If this is your first time ever, you like, I don't know, somebody sent me this link, I heard this thing, or I saw this short, or whatever. Welcome to Truthful Chats. This is our weekly podcast, which is an offshoot of Create Generational Wellness, which is our mission, our vision, our brand, if you will. And here at Create Generational Wellness for the last year, and now going into 2024, typically we have a theme for the month. It's a particular word that we're focusing on. And then throughout the month, each week on Truthful Chats, which is what you're watching now, we unpack that word just a little bit. So if you clicked on this video, also, if you don't know what Create Generational Wellness is, you don't know what those words all mean together, just look beyond wherever you're watching this video, like below in the description. We usually keep a little something around for you. But it is another January, okay, January 2024. And our word for this month will be cultivate. I don't know that we're keeping words all month. I'm going to be 100% for the rest of the year. I don't know. Things might change. But thus far,
I feel like things are definitely.
We're keeping the format the way we've had it. So at least for probably the first quarter, we're going to stick to this. And once we change, then you know. So anyway, it's January. The word is cultivate. And if you clicked on this video, you know it's cultivate compassion. Once again, cultivate compassion. Let's jump in, shall we?
All right. So compassion is all about having, well, it starts, let me put it like that. It starts with having deeper empathy for yourself and for the people around you. All right. So, what is empathy? We've been through this. I hope you know. It's the ability to understand the feelings of other people. You know how you tell kids, well, put yourself in that person's shoes. How would you feel if somebody did that to you? So, empathy is the process of trying to figure that out. If this were you, how would you feel about it? Sympathy is in there somewhere a little bit because most of the time, if something bad is happening for a person, you feel a little sorry for them. But empathy just means trying to understand what the other person is feeling at a particular time. I think here we have a real definition: share the feelings of others, the action of understanding, being aware of, being sensitive to, and vicariously experiencing the feelings, thoughts, and experience of another. So if you, again, building blocks, I feel like I'm in a building block thing. So in order to have compassion, you have to have that first building block of empathy. Because if you can't think about what another person is thinking or feeling or whatever, chances are you're not going to have compassion for them. And the important part and the different part of empathy versus compassion is, excuse me, is compassion makes you want to do something about what you feel the other person is feeling. Like if you see somebody going through something, like at the grocery store, this has happened to me a couple times. You see somebody with kids, you see they kind of might not have enough money. They're really anxious, putting up one thing at a time, trying to see what the total is or whatever. The feeling of that might be, oh my gosh, she might not have enough money, blah, blah, blah. I really feel sorry for her, whatever. Compassion would be like telling her not to worry about it. I got it. And so that means you felt what she felt, but then you also took action to do something about what you saw. So that's a little bit more enhanced of what compassion means. Does that make sense?
Sure, yeah. It's not just you feel something, but you actually do something about it.
Yep. So it sounds beautiful. Sounds like, oh, we should all be doing that, make the world a better place. So, yeah, but it's hard. It's hard. There can be a lot of reasons why it's hard. It's hard, because life be life and things be happening. And you want to walk in another person's shoes, but sometimes you got so much of your own stuff going on. Compassion cannot get in for anybody else because you're self-absorbed. So there's a difference between self-absorbed and self-aware.
And I think compassion goes, what she's saying is not that you're not going to feel something for the person. Yeah. But based on your given circumstances, you may or may not be in a position to do anything about it.
Yeah, to alleviate their suffering. Yeah. And so it involves recognizing the pain somebody's experiencing, empathizing with them, hopefully finding a way to do something that makes their pain and their suffering a little bit less, if you can. Right?
Okay. Agreed. I mean, I think at least this is the way I'm thinking about it. It's really the idea of like, empathy comes down to we're all living this life. We're all very familiar with the concept of pain, right? Because suffering is definitely a part. Underneath all the flowery words is an emphasis on understanding suffering or pain, right? That's like a universal thing that connects us. I want to say not just as humans, just as creatures, right? We all have the ability to experience some form of pain, which is not like a super rosy thing to think about, but it's part of being empathetic is saying that you are a living being having a human experience. I'm a living being human having a human experience. We are sharing in this experience that has an equal amount of pain, which I think is what Dave Chappelle was trying to say in his former comedy special. I enjoyed this one as well, but the one that all of our trans brothers and sisters were freaking out about, that was really what that last monologue was a plea for empathy. I might not understand you. I might not necessarily like what you're doing, but we're all humans having a human experience. There's pain and suffering attached. And as a fellow being experiencing pain and suffering,
Human being.
I should be nicer to you because I know what that feels like on any given day when things could get crazy, because either I'm experiencing individual suffering or experiencing collective suffering, or it's usually a combination of both.
Yep.
So
Every day.
And again, it's not just we all feel the thing, but like how can we actively help each other, hopefully lessen each other's suffering, at least in your encounters with me. It might not always be that way, but the goal is to be like, all right, maybe you acting out like this or cussing people out or rolling your eyes because you're in some sort of pain.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I might not like it, I probably would not be functioning with you super hard. I get it. Let me try to extend a little kindness, a little extra something. Now I get it. We've talked about, trying to control your emotions and all of those things, but sometimes a pop off might be required. But after the pop off, hopefully you're able to be like, let me go back and be like, I'm so sorry I came at you this way. Oh, who knows? The person might be like, dang, I'm so sorry I came out at you this way because I'm really going through this. So it might be an opportunity to learn from each other and grow from each other. But I'm not going to say that a pop off is not off the table. I think we're trying to have less pop offs in 2024, but I'm not going to say that they're off the table. Okay.
Ooh.
Because honestly, it's the language that some people understand. I wouldn't say that they are in a space where they're trying to create generational wellness yet. But for real, you could be super nice and super empathetic and actually actively trying to help somebody, and they could be like, get out of here with all that. Do you know what I'm saying? Because they haven't, it doesn't, they got the Thanos armor on. It's not really
no place in their heart
the way that it should.
Yeah.
So anyway, empathy is supposed to remind us of our interconnectedness as human beings. And hopefully, if we are able to identify said pain and suffering and not only have all the feels about it, but be like, let me try to help this person or do something or lend or offer support in that moment. Hopefully it will be effective in terms of having more positive relationships, better communities, and hopefully a better world at large. That's very Pollyanna-ish, but everything, as we always say,
if we take baby steps,
starts with you. You gotta take baby steps. What I say every week, but it is, you gotta figure out where people are on the tier of the building block. Some of y'all are down here, some are mid, some are upper. Okay, so you just gotta figure out where you fall on the compassion building block. Okay,
and it is really, really important in these, as the saints would say, last and final days, maybe, that we are
living. Do we know in. That?
Maybe.
As my pastor says, it's your last and final days.
But it should be clear that the world at this point is in need of an infusion of compassion, because this life is lifing in a very weird way here these days. And I mean,
I told you, we entered a new universe, a whole new paradigm after 2020.
I think after universe. 2016, but
we're not giving Donald Trump that much.
No, but I think there was a shift.
Has he unleashed a Pandora's box of hellish activities?
Yes.
Sure, but I don't want to give him that much credit. He's really not worth all of our energy.
Not just that. It's all the things.
Let's see. Everything needs a vessel. Let's go ahead and say that. And he took on the vessel appointment.
Listen, and it's all the things. It's the mental health issues. It's your physical health. It's your emotional well-being. It's your financial issues. Going through that pandemic, the money, it's the commerce, it's the global issues, it's the social justice issues, it's deaths, it's accidents, it's losing love, it's all the things. And so all everywhere, all at once, all the things, whatever that movie was. But
that's not the title, but you get it.
But at some point, it's not going to be light. Sometimes things are going to happen in life. And like Jess was saying, it might not be happening to you, but the fact that it's happening to somebody else is causing them to feel a certain type of way.
And act towards you in a certain type of way.
The behavior.
And this is not like a rosy, compassion is a good thing, but I think the pain and suffering part, I think we often don't talk about that a lot because it's not sexy and it's uncomfortable and it's hard, but it really is like
life.
Whatever if this was an iceberg analogy, whatever the tip of the iceberg is that people are showing you is a lot of pain and suffering on the bottom of that iceberg, and we don't make a lot of space to talk about it all the time.
And
so
sometimes it's not pain and suffering, it's just uncertainty. People just don't know. They're like,
which is the pain and suffering.
Yeah, it can be.
Humans like to know things, and when
Absolutely.
you can't know things, that's kind of part of the game, is to be like, you ain't gonna know everything, bro. So how are you gonna act accordingly? And you know, we don't want to be Debbie Downers in the first episode of the new year, but part of 2024, listen, y'all believing for more and whatever Q sayings, you know, I told you I'm off it. Okay, after 2020, I'm cured of all the things. I will take a good prophetic word or two. I'll listen. We'll see what applies, what does not. Okay, let's start using our common sense. Saying all that to say, we're just trying to be realistic with you, like we always are. Like 2024 is great. It's an honor to be in another year. Mm-hmm. But on the other side of this year, some things will have occurred, and it's really about the person that you become on the other side of things occurring.
As you're going through it.
Positive things or what you would consider negative things. They're all growth opportunities. Let's think about it like that.
They're any or all of these things, hopefully not all at once, but all of this is part of the human experience. And as human beings, we are going to experience a lot of that. And the more we work together and see that everybody's going through it, it's not just you. You know, there are some people that
feels like that sometimes.
It can feel like everybody's having a beautiful life on Instagram and I'm over here.
The internet is not real. I don't know how many times I have to continue to say this. The algorithm is perfect, okay? As Donald Glover once said, there's a reason for that.
Yeah, so once you realize that everybody is going through something, it might not be the same thing, then hopefully your compassion meter will be able to rise and we can all work through it together. Most of us want to be happy. We want to be free from pain and suffering. Ultimately. Yeah, most people don't want to walk around being mad and angry and not feeling good and this, that, and the other. The human experience wants to experience pleasure, happiness, joy, all these things. So the recognition that we all have a common fear of maybe it's not going to happen for me or it's not happening the way that I want it, whatever, is the basis to look at that person on the other side of the table or wherever from you and say, let me try to have a little compassion, because if I'm going through something, I know they're going through something too. But it's not easy. Like I said, I read a quote today that said, it requires a sensitivity to suffering with a commitment to try to alleviate and prevent that suffering. So if you're going to be compassionate, you got to realize, hey, this person is suffering, I'm suffering, the world is suffering. What can I do in my own little corner, in my own little chair, wherever I am, to alleviate and help prevent that suffering where I can, when I can. And it's really hard to have compassion for people you don't know, either because they live on the other side of the world, you don't know them personally, they're different from you culturally, ethnically, their beliefs, their values, whatever. That could be. It can really be hard to have compassion for somebody who has done you dirty, because that is now it is personal. It's not just like, oh, I feel compassion for everybody in the world, whatever. I'm trying to feel compassion for this person who has treated me unfairly, and that is really hard to do. So you got to work. You know, we always say you got to put in the work. So if you're going to try and be a compassionate person, there is some work that you're going to have to put in.
And I think alleviate, or what's the other part of it? Prevent suffering. I think there's a thing, and I'm just going to say this quickly because I feel like I think there's a thing about alleviation and prevention of suffering. I think some people feel like, or they get stuck in, and we will talk about this later. But like we talk about, people have experienced things in life, people have experienced trauma, and they feel like, if I have been made to suffer, then other people should suffer too. We talked about this last episode, I think. This is how villains are created, okay? Is that...
And projection. You want to project.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
But villains, or people who tend to project things, and I'm not going to say that they're villains, but we talked about this. A lot of villains' origin stories, or the worst people in humanity you could think of. Somebody did them dirt. They didn't do no creating of generational, no wellness of no sort. that became a deep-seated wound. And then it was like, if I gotta deal with this, if life is gonna do me like this, do me dirt, I'm gonna do everybody dirt. And I think that even in our human frailties, like we don't mean to hurt each other's feelings. Like that's not our intention. So the alleviation and the prevention of suffering is key. But I think we have to get to a place of wellness in ourselves where we're not spewing our suffering and pain on other people just because we had to experience it. I think we just need to know that's just a part of life, right?
That's
and I think
big part of compassion.
And I think that when suffering comes, of course it'd be nicer to not have to deal with it, but that's just not realistic. So I think the main thing is, okay, when suffering comes to you, are you gonna let it make you better or let it make you bitter? Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean to say that it doesn't suck, that you're not gonna cry, that you're not gonna feel all the things, that you're not gonna maybe want to take a pause from everybody or do whatever you feel like you need to do for your own wellness journey. That's why we be having these conversations, to let you know, like, a lot of that stuff is very normal and very common. And so you have to be able to find ways to work through your said suffering, again, that are not destructive or causing harm to yourself or others. But to think that you're going to experience suffering and, like, we like to do the, like, it bounced up off me type thing. You know what I mean? Like, you want to Harlem shake and diddy bop the suffering off. Like, that didn't really hurt your feelings, but it really did. So I think that's part of I think compassion starts with having compassion for yourself, to be like, ouch, that hurt. Maybe I should look at that or deal with that instead of trying to stuff it or act like it didn't, hurt me. Or, like, this is an example. Not that I don't love my nieces and nephews dearly, but, like, my youngest nephew be feeling his feelings. And when he lived with us, we'd be like, we let you feel your feelings. But I'll watch his brothers and sisters, like, try and squash his emotions. Like, they be like,
he's very sensitive,
mad at him.
He's an artist
for having emotions. I'm gonna give you an example. This is just, I don't want to take that much time, but this is an example. And everybody who knows what I'm talking about, who understood in the compassion in your heart, they had the audacity. His oldest brother, who I helped raise everyone, but still, he gonna fix his mouth to say, yeah, we was watching this movie the other day and my little brother started crying. And I said, well, what was the movie? And he was like, man, it was Hardball when G Baby died. I said,
you supposed to cry when G Baby died.
First of all, that's a spoiler. I don't know what you've been doing with your life. Hardball is a great movie. But I said, yo, what? I said, we all cried when G Baby died. Nick, what are you talking about? Like, I just couldn't, I was like, what kind of bulletproof vest, emotional
are you trying to put on?
What are you doing? I'm like, everybody cried when that happened. What are you talking about? I told him it scarred a generation. There are kids we was all going to high school in the early 2000s. We're still emotionally scarred from that. Okay, that'll make you hard to be like, yeah, I didn't even cry because it was just a movie. There's a G Baby out there in real life. Get your life. Anyway, I'm saying all that to say, let's stop the practice. Okay, this is the ongoing practice of getting a generational wellness, right? Let's stop the ongoing practice of ignoring our suffering or trying to block out our suffering, which we're very good at in America, or the suffering of others, because we can always turn on something else and keep it pushing, especially when we feel like we can't get to the compassion part of something that is action. I think that's when we also start to be like, well, can't deal with that, but let's just try to make a pact together that we're not going to just keep like Heismaning all of the suffering that's going on. Okay, so saying all that to say, as we segue into the next part, life experiences, as we've just sort of touched on, can seriously diminish your ability to give and receive compassion. Again, if you've experienced a certain level of suffering, of trauma, if you're Black in America, or
every day,
or colored of any kind, we're talking about you. Not to say that white people don't suffer. Y'all just suffer different. You get to decide whether you're going to upper echelon yourself into a white supremacist utopia. Okay, might not last forever, but people of color do it too. That rope is going to fall a lot faster for you than it does for people who have the complexion for the protection. But I'm just saying, okay. So that's why I say white people be like, y'all think we didn't suffer? We did it. Things happen to y'all. We're not denying that.
We watched, but what was that movie? Yellowstone,
1883, where y'all was suffering on the prairie. Nobody told y'all to come out here and do that, but I guess y'all was in search of a better life on the other side of the country. Either way, y'all have gone through things. I'm not denying that. I don't want to not give you your flowers in terms of compassion or oppression Olympics, whatever. But also what's problematic is it's traumatic to know y'all been this racist for that long. That's traumatic. That's a suffering that we have not taken in. Shout out to Nambi Kelly, who's
or that it
incredible.
hasn't moved at all.
Well, that's because you haven't accepted it, which is why y'all banning the books and doing all the crazy things. Like part of it is a level of denial.
Yeah.
If you feel like you can deny it enough, then you feel like you got to take in that amount of suffering, because it's a lot of suffering, and it's a lot of suffering that you're not personally held accountable for, but you are helping keep up some of the institutions alive. Anyway, saying all that to say, people get caught in what is a psychological loop, okay, which is what I would call that, of denial in that case, but a psychological loop that stops you from accepting your compassion for others or yourself. Let's be T.I. clear. A lot of white people, y'all can't forgive yourself for having ancestors in your blood that would do such heinous and egregious things. And you think you're better. But you think so because there are certain things.
And a lot of people think the answer is just not to talk about it.
Which it's not. Because how you going to learn from it if you don't ever talk about it? I was actually just watching Black Earth Rising that was about Rwanda. I don't know why I didn't finish the last episode, but shout out to McKellar Call. Anyway, it was great. And the whole thing was about whether they were going to suppress the history of Rwanda or tell people the truth. We too are at a crossroads with that in the country.
What else did we just watch that was talking about how they educate kids in Germany about?
It was probably Trevor Noah, who is a pastor and
oh yeah, it was Trevor Noah. He was talking about how they educate the kids in Germany about Hitler and what happened. Holocaust. And they don't try to throw away all the books and say that it happened, but they are dependent on that generation to make sure it doesn't continue.
But America is so
compassion. Young. You see what I'm talking about? That's compassion. What can you do when you see that there is something that is egregiously wrong, and it grieves everybody's spirit for the most part, and you want to perpetuate it as opposed to finding a way to alleviate that suffering and turn it into a positive place.
And I think it's the thing to say in Rwanda and in Germany, to Trevor Noah's point and various other people, especially Nelson Mandela, people who was really about that action, okay? It is also not trying, and Origin, I don't know if it's out yet. I saw Ava DuVernay's Origin already. It's really a big history lesson, but it deals with these themes that we're talking about in terms of erasing history and compassion. But part of that is also realizing that the suffering that those people felt that brought them to the point of committing the genocide, killing hella people, doing whatever said heinous and egregious thing that they did. And this is an extreme example, but that level of suffering isn't that far removed from you as a human. There's all kind of xenophobia, homophobia, this, that, pick a thing, it still exists. And if you get enough people you tap into that nerve of suffering, right, and lack of compassion and empathy, you get people to do whatever you want. Okay. At the end of the day, if you touch that nerve. So saying all that to say, based on personal experiences, trauma, etc., accept the compassion for yourself or others or for yourself or for others can be difficult, especially if you're stuck in that psychological loop. And those things can be broken, mainly because of your brain chemistry, which we often talk about. Some people, some of y'all predisposed to Thanos energy. Do you know what I mean? But that doesn't mean that you can't come back from the dark side, okay? But you gotta put some work in on that thing, okay? Unless you choosing Thanos and you're gonna live and die on the Thanos hill. Some of y'all, that's your lot in life. More power to you.
We're gonna still try to help you.
But again, I was like, you chose that path. I mean, you feel what I'm saying? So yeah, it affects your awareness once you are hopefully actively making decisions about what side of the coin of history and humanity that you want to be on. So you can deliberately cultivate better compassion by learning the following things. You can cultivate compassionate attention, okay? That's where the self-awareness comes in. Again, of saying in these extreme examples of horrible genocide to say, okay, what were these people exactly mad about that made them decide that a whole other onslaught of people should be killed and
die?
Could I relate to some of those things? Like I was actually just watching something about a cult before we got on here, and I was judging them. I was like, what the heck? Like, I was just like, this man didn't even say nothing that deep. I'm actively working at trying to find compassion of like, well, why? Let me see. Could I be susceptible? Like, what do these people see in this person? And the main thing that they saw that I think
that they rallied around.
In the first episode is Wild Wild Country. If people know that documentary on Netflix. Compassionate attention I'm paying to the fact that they wanted a place to belong. These were a lot of people who were either really materially successful or maybe some outcasts or whatever. They came from a various spectrum of life, right?
Life. Mm-hmm.
But the thing that drew their attention to this person is that he gave them a place to belong in a place where they never felt like they had belonged before. So that's me actively trying to be empathetic to the fact that like this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. But I'm trying to be like, okay, compassionate attention. I understand that all of us want a place of ourselves to belong. And if I was a person who constantly felt like I didn't have a place to belong, but then I met a super weird dude, maybe I could see that. Okay. So compassionate attention is the first thing. Compassionate thinking. Again, that's me trying to be empathetic to put myself in the mind of these people to be like, okay, this was the 60s. Everything was crazy, going wrong. People were, being assassinated. They was about to get into Vietnam. Like, it was a crazy time. Everything that people had built their lives on in terms of growing up, to get a job, to get married, to practice the same religion their parents practiced, like all that stuff was being ripped under the rug.
It went to hell in a handbasket. I'm going to tell you, I remember because I was 10 and I was born in the 50s. The 50s, for a lot of people, not necessarily for Black people, was an idyllic.
A lot of American history is idyllic. Okay, yeah. When you let the oppressor tell their side of the story.
But in the 60s, it was like the cap got ripped off of everything. It was like,
and I ain't gonna lie, I counted 3 Black people in that cult from the pictures I saw. It was a cult that started in India, and the affluent was spending their money to go to India to go live with this man, and then the man came to Oregon. So I'm not gonna say that everyone is susceptible to wanting to belong, but I will say the complexion for the protection was pretty strong in that environment.
Yeah, and in the 60s, everybody was upset about something. It's bad now. But then there was an awakening going on in the whole country of, the civil rights.
Because people were thinking, I think. They weren't just accepting, again, compassionate attention, right? And compassionate thinking. And I think because there was so much trauma and upheaval of institutions that said that they were going to protect you, that they were going to take care of you, that you could rely on, everything started melting. And from that comes, like we're talking about, opportunity to be something different or do something different, right? But you got to put some, I don't know about parameters around it, but you gotta, this is why we talk about self-awareness. You gotta know, like, oh, I'm walking into a cult type atmosphere. Everybody's wearing orange. That's the first thing everybody said. Oh, everybody's wearing orange. If you somewhere and everybody wearing the same color, or you ain't at a family gathering or a reunion or something.
Yeah, I got t-shirts.
Ding, ding, ding. This is not an organization. This ain't Habitat for Humanity. It's not a nonprofit. Just everybody wearing the same color. Problematic. But again, saying all that to say, using this documentary that I just started the first episode of, it made me have compassionate attention, compassionate thinking, compassionate feeling. Again, the main feeling I connected to was, oh, these people want a sense of belonging. And everybody was looking for a place to belong because everything, all the institutions, everything they said that they could trust at that time was falling apart around them. And so they just decided, like, it seems like a good alternative. I feel good here. Like they said, that the man introduced them to whatever his level of meditation was. But half of it was people would just be screaming. They'd be screaming and falling all out. And then
I wasn't watching this.
They would start crying. And I was like, and I'm a theater kid, so I know some of these words, but I was also like, interesting. Anyway, a lot of it was giving people a place to do something with all those feelings that they were feeling. That seemed probably constructive at the time. I don't know when it's gonna go left, but it's very clear that it's gonna go left. Even if I didn't know no one told me this was about a cult, And shout out to Asia Horn. She told me about it a couple years ago, but I was just like, I was watching Equalizer 3 really, and Pam was like, "You were watching it without me?" And I was like, "Girl, I just started from the beginning because I was falling asleep the other night." Anyway, I put this on. But anyway, if I didn't know this was a cult, I was still my self-awareness would go, I don't know, fam. And then the next thing, so compassionate attention, compassionate thinking, compassionate feeling, and compassionate behavior. All these people we talking about, they was giving out hugs. They was doing some other things too. We ain't got to that part. Whenever a leader starts off a talk and the first thing they say is, and you should just be free in your sexuality. Ding, ding, ding.
Ding, ding.
Something
we didn't practice that.
Something is, I'm just giving you the cult bells to be like ding, 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 because that means something else is going on. Anyway, compassionate behavior. People, again, wanted a place to belong. People was bringing their kids, their families. People was, giving hugs, helping each other, but they would be building villages and towns together. Just collective, compassionate behavior with what you feel is like-minded people.
But based on
their collective suffering.
Their collective suffering. And
a cult leader will always take advantage of your
suffering.
Your suffering. Which, some people feel that about all, whether it's Buddha, Jesus, Moses, or anybody in between. That's how Jesus ended up being considered a cult leader. I get it. It's like, once I was watching, I said, I can see why some people really thought that. But you got to get to the root of the thing. And let me tell you something, then people are always going to be rooted out in time. Time is the great equalizer for when you're in a trap. So anyway, if we are learning to be open to our suffering and also realizing that our suffering can be taken advantage of, okay? So that's why we always talk about having supportive communities and friends, not if they all wear the same color. Supportive communities every day. Don't bet your whole wardrobe is the same color, okay? So anyway, we always talk about having those types of support systems, but you gotta learn to be open to your suffering within yourself, but also suffering of others, but also keep your antennas up because people will comfort you. And the idea of alleviating each other's suffering, which again, you can see how cult leaders can use that to their advantage. So when we practice compassion the right way, when people are not being taken advantage of their suffering and manipulative, you're actually trying to exercise your compassion and work through your suffering in ways that will actually benefit you in the long run.
And others.
And hopefully others, yes. More positive emotions, a lot more joy, a lot more gratitude, a lot more love, hopefully, because suffering can be transformed. And I think we don't really talk about that a lot. We get stuck in the suckiness of it, and there's a sucky period. But we believe that suffering could be transformative if you let it be, which I think is in all great major religions. But it's definitely something I know is a tenet of Christianity that we tend to. It's not the sexy part of Christianity, say that, but it's in there. And so being able to transform your suffering helps you to create greater resilience, right? Because it's not just like I'm suffering, it sucks, I hate everybody, but there is purpose on the other side of me getting past the suffering or said adversity. And compassion allows you to look at things with meaning and a sense of purpose, right? It's not just suffering for suffering's sake, hopefully. But you got to have parameters in place to make sure that is happening, like that is actively being turned into something positive instead of just festering and composting into something nasty. Even compost, it gets nasty before it starts to help and transform the soils. So finding people to, again, constructively work through your suffering helps to foster trust, deeper connections with other people, and then compassion for ourselves, which I'm constantly working on. I talk to myself horribly, but I'll be working on it because self-acceptance and compassion really does help with your mental health and reduce your stress levels. Like in the last couple of days, I've just been like, just calm down, fam, or don't think about that, or don't get overwhelmed. Like I was up the other night just thinking about stuff, and I had to be like, just go to sleep, fam. There's really nothing you can do about it. And, the more we talk about these things, it's like what we say all the time. The more you can personally get better, that means you can help the next person get better, and the next
trickle
person,
up, trickle down.
And it has a ripple effect where we can create, more harmony, more compassion, more wellness overall. So here's a couple of practical tips. Cultivate compassion. Practice self-reflection. I feel like we say this every week or every other week. Reflecting, actually having internal conversations with yourself, or sometimes out loud if you need to.
And I'm telling you why it's so important, because otherwise you fall into denial. You will absolutely fall into a narrative that may or may not be true, just because it's the easiest narrative and what comes up first. So if it comes up, you owe it to yourself to question it, to say, is this what I'm really feeling? Is this real? If somebody said this to me, what did they mean by that? Am I taking it personally? Is there some underlying conversation
and I think the key
they're having with themselves that they're projecting onto me? You just have to think about it and not just take everything at face value.
And I think the main thing is to start from the place that the intention is not bad.
Yeah.
I think that's the key. To be like, okay, if this was me and I had said or done this to a person, let me stop, because I know my automatic response is, or how I automatically would think about the situation, but let me try to reverse engineer a little bit.
And see how it could have hit them in a different way than I said it or I meant it. And vice versa. Mm-hmm. If they said something that I'm now taking personally or in a particular way, was their intention that, or was it something else? So the reflection part of it is just like, again, before you pop off, step back for a minute and say, does this require a pop off? Or am I misconstruing some signals here? Let's try and figure that out first.
Or you have a pop-off session with yourself like I did today. I didn't share with anyone, but I did.
I knew you were having a session.
I had an internal pop-off. But that's my business. And I
didn't ask you about it.
So anyway, if you reflect on
which let us say that is improvement for me, because
I wasn't going to share with her anyway.
Yeah.
It's an improvement that she didn't ask, not that she didn't.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
She still had the impulse to ask, she just didn't ask, which is improvement.
It's improvement that I didn't.
Normally she would try to pry, but you know why else? Because she know I would pop off on her about that, and she don't want the smoke. That's all. Anyway,
that's a truthful chat right there.
How to regularly reflect on your thoughts and your actions to identify areas where you can be more compassionate. At that moment, the most compassionate thing to do was to shut my mouth and fume with myself and the Holy Spirit and let it be. Okay. And then move on. And again, you're challenging any negative judgments or biases you may hold and strive to respond with kindness and empathy. I still think I was right to pop off, and I was still mad, but then I just removed myself from the person in the situation.
But you didn't really pop off. You could have, but
because I kept it internal. I'm working on it.
You did.
All right. Number 2, cultivate self-compassion. Again, part of my self-compassion care was, I'm not even finna engage in this foolishness with you. We off that. Okay. And then I just moved on. So extending compassion to yourself is good, again, because you're trying to treat yourself with kindness, understanding. I understood that I was done. Okay. And I proceeded accordingly. And that's a form of self-care, because my therapist says I either stuff internally and explode later, or I'm going to pop off right then. And it's too early in the year for me to continue to expend my energy in anger. So
this is why compassion is one of the words for the year.
But I still let it out, personally, and then it's gone. Okay, and then it's gone. I didn't cuss nobody out. I didn't say nothing crazy. I just rolled my eyes, was quiet, did what I had to do by myself. It's my private meditation time. Anyway, so it gives you an opportunity to acknowledge your strengths and your weaknesses without judgment, because I was not judging myself. I said, girl, just say what you got to say. Let it out. And then, you learn to forgive yourself for your mistakes. Again, I don't think I did anything wrong in the situation, but maybe upon further reflection, I will find out that I did, but I don't think so. And then, you just get to incorporate it as a daily activity on a regular. Develop empathy, which you can still see I'm working on. Empathy, again, is a crucial component of compassion, where you're seeking to understand another person by actively listening to their experiences and their perspectives. And hopefully you will develop empathy for them. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But
And sometimes I'm experiencing this a little bit in another family situation, but
hold on, let me finish.
okay.
What you're trying to do is put yourself in the other person's shoes. You're imagining what it might feel like to be them, right? And what they're feeling. And then hopefully, again, that helps you develop a greater sense of empathy and compassion towards the other person. But like we said, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Go ahead with what you're saying.
I was going to say I'm in a particular situation with family right now where empathy is difficult to come by. And I've been trying to figure out why some people are having trouble being
granted,
empathetic.
I'm an outsider to the same family situation, but I 100% hear where they're coming from. I don't know if they're right, but I hear where they're coming from. So she been like on her like complete empathy high horse, and I'm like, but you ain't been there. You don't know. Let me translate what I hear them saying and why I think they say it. Now she don't like it, and we really.
But I have empathy for
and we
the
really
situation.
don't know which one is right, but we just throwing all the things on the air.
Yes, I have empathy for both sides of the situation. That's what I was going to say. But it has taken a lot of self-reflection and thought and trying to be an active listener and paying attention and trying to have compassionate attention, compassionate thinking, compassionate feeling.
And behavior.
For me not to pop off, which would not be good.
Next up, practice loving kindness meditations. So those are meditations.
Sometimes that need medication.
Whatever. Meditations designed to do like well wishes for yourself, positive intentions for yourself. Again, because we tend to have, I feel like we talk about negativity bias that we all kind of instinctually have. To lean, and especially when you're in a suffering space, the negativity bias is probably on 102. You know what I'm saying? Like you just keep that thing going.
That I heard something today that said the negativity bias sticks. Like if it was a pot, it's everything you throw at it just sticks 90% of the time. The positive bias sticks about 10% of the time. It's just all the rest of it is just bam, bam, bam. I'm taking it.
So practicing loving kindness meditations helps because you're actively working against that. You're doing well.
You're pushing away the negative
positive intentions for yourself or for other people. Maybe I'll try that next time.
I want you to try that. I keep talking to you about trying that.
I'll try.
But you
see, but there's a whole nother level to this conversation. And once we actually have a full conversation about it ourselves, maybe she'll see it from my perspective.
Yes.
But probably not, which is why I don't talk about it. Anyway, but by regularly practicing this form of meditation, you can develop a sense of, again, compassion and loving kindness towards yourself and towards other people. And I think that's because we're talking about when you extend that to other people, but then they throw it back in your face. That's when I bust out the F it dust. And I'm like, well, this is an executive decision that you've made. And I'm done with that. So pray for me as I pray for you.
I had a thought. I'll share it later.
Okay. 5, random acts of kindness. This is what we talk about in terms of like, especially if you're in a suffering place, where you get to do things outside of yourself for the moment. It just takes your brain off of suffering. Because it allows you to get usually into the empathetic space of someone else's suffering. And then you'd be like, dang, this is what they're going through. Not that comparison is a good thing. But usually when you'd be like, woo.
Sometimes it is, though.
They're going through this. Let me be grateful for my little bit of suffering.
My little bit of suffering.
Okay.
That happened to me last week, too. I was like, ooh, I thought this was bad. But
not that, comparison kills. Shout out to Johnny Mac. But in times like that, sometimes, when you put your suffering under a microscope compared to somebody else under a magnifying glass, you'd be like, okay, well, maybe not. So engaging random acts of kindness can be really simple, but an effective way to start to cultivate compassion. So trying to do like one.
That's not a real word, y'all. Cultivate is not. Don't add that.
Don't add it to the lexicon of conversation. It's not
Urban Dictionary places. Don't add that. Okay.
I have 2 degrees. Sometimes I can do that. But anyway, I'm not going to say it out. Well, this is out in public. But I'm not going to use it as a real word. Okay. So yeah, maybe doing one kind thing each day. Honestly, this is just from my playbook. It might not have to be with people. Maybe you're not feeling the people today. The animals will always accept your compassion and kindness. They ain't gonna say nothing. They ain't gonna do. Some of them ain't gonna be with it, but most of them, it's just a very simple exchange because they just take what you give them and they go away. It's not like you gotta have no conversation or the kindness that you show wasn't good enough because they was expected. Just if the people is peopling, you can't do it. Find you a plant or a living, breathing creature to extend some compassion to an act of kindness, and they'll be grateful. Yeah, it's just, and if you want to do the people, hold the door open for somebody, they're probably not going to say anything, which is usually what happens to me. Which I used to be like real mad. My mad, it's like a pinch now, but then I'd be like, but it's not even really for you. It's for me. You know what I mean?
Like forgiveness, they say.
Sure. But sometimes you'd be like, wow. And sometimes, wow, that's rude. You know what I mean? Sometimes you got to get it in. I'm not even going to lie to you. Because I'm challenging.
Okay, then.
Okay. Because, you got to challenge people in their kindness and their compassion sometimes too. Or you can give to a charity, whatever your set thing is. Practicing gratitude is next. Because you foster compassion.
Back to what you were,
mindset.
Well, I was just getting ready to say about what you were saying, where you think, yours is really bad until you hear something and you go, okay, that's terrible. And that should automatically lead you into some gratitude, just by virtue of what it is. I'm so sorry. That made me nervous.
But compassion for shifting your focus and to the positive aspects of your life, or cultivating appreciation or kindness or support. You know what I mean? I think we always forget that energy is real. What you put in out, you can't get back. So the more that you shift your focus to gratitude, then more things to be thankful for will continue to pop up instead of negativity. Emotional.
Listen, I'm going to tell you, at 68, my gratitude for waking up in the morning and only hurting in one place. Like, I'm past, like, I don't hurt anywhere. I'm just grateful, like, oh, only this is hurting today, not all the things. Only my neck is hurting, or only my hands, or whatever. Thank you, Jessica, for the great. Jessica gave me the best Christmas present.
To put my business on the street.
She did, but it's a hand massager, and you put it in, and it just heats. And
I had to get her a new one because the one I tried to buy on Instagram was a scam.
Her.
So,
but I got it.
Be careful on the ground.
I got it for Christmas. It's amazing. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm practicing gratitude right now.
Mm-hmm. So, taking a few minutes to reflect on gratitude, expressing your gratitude to yourself, to the Lord, to others, to the things that are around you, big and small things. Okay. Engage in compassionate conversations. I feel like we usually talk about this. Conversational health is very important all the way around, but more conversation to promote understanding, empathy, compassion, seeking to understand people's different perspectives, even if you don't always agree with them, but just being open-minded, asking open-ended questions so people can share things, not just like yes, no answers, but like where you can get people's stories, people's background. Again, you might start that conversation feeling really terrible, and then by the end of it, having talked to that person, you might be like, okay, well, what I'm going through is bad, but it ain't all that. And validating others' experiences without judgment. So that's not always having the answers for people, but like just letting them share their little stories. I shouldn't believe it. It's just what Black people do. Anyway, letting them share their stories. We all said we're gonna stop saying little because it's supposed to be funny though. I don't mean to diminish you, but anyway, letting people tell their stories. And maybe not necessarily having all the answers, but just being like, I hear you, I see you, I get it.
I empathize with you.
Etc.
Is there anything I can do to help you?
And that's practicing active listening, right? Compassionate listening, compassionate attention, compassionate thinking, etc., etc. And just showing genuine interest in the other person and what they're saying and trying to connect with them empathetically. And just, you just being there for somebody, your presence being there for somebody could really be very helpful and insightful. It makes somebody feel a lot less alone. And that is practicing empathy in a very simple way. You just actively listening.
Yeah, I'm really passionate about that, the communication part of it and the listening, whatever. And
Some days, people, but
I'm probably going to do a little course or something about that in the upcoming months. So be on the lookout for that.
Don't tease them. If you're gonna
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it.
All right, you heard it here first, an exclusive. World premiere.
I am a certified coach in conversational intelligence, and that means you can learn how to be more intelligent in your conversations. You don't have to keep saying the wrong thing and doing the wrong thing and popping off and not understanding people. So I'm going to help you this year a little more.
Unless the pop off is good for you to extinguish this, let the steam off by yourself. You don't have to be with other people.
Yeah, so let me know if that's something that would interest you, that you would like to learn how to have better conversations with people.
Classes and courses.
On an ongoing basis. All right, so, I have to talk about the kids a little bit because...
Gotta understand trickle of the kids.
People have to understand, this is really important. Kids have a natural ability to be compassionate. They're born with it. Until something
life
happens,
be life, and then they get bitter.
They have this big ball of compassion, and then things happen.
Life just
shrinks it and pulls it out.
A Polly Pocket size sliver.
So what you want to do is to now you got me about to say cultivate the compassion that's already in a child. Cultivate that compassion. How do we do that? All right. First of all, most important thing you could do is role model. Don't you be rude. Don't you be ugly to the people. Try to show kindness. Try to say nice things. Try not to talk about your friend behind your back and your kids over here. Try not these are things that make kids say,
I can do that.
I can do that. I don't have to be nice. I don't have this.
Now, that's not saying that if this has been your current trajectory that you can't little by little start to implement change. We talk about every week. If you want to, but if you want to stay on that Thanos, stay on that Thanos. But if you let the kids see the transformation.
Let the children see you being kind. Let the children see you holding the door. Let the children see you serving other people.
Whether they accept it or like it or not.
Yeah. You just don't want to mess up their natural capacity for compassion, their natural God-given capacity for compassion by you acting a fool and being rude and doing things that go against it. All right. Encourage their empathy. Teach the children, like I said, easiest way to do that with kids is say, if that happened to you, if somebody said that to you, how would you feel? If somebody didn't let you color with their crayons, how would you feel? If somebody didn't, just reverse the situation and ask them how would they feel. This gives, and don't try to correct necessarily how it comes out, what they say. Because what you want to hear is the truth of how they're feeling about that. And then you can start to make the adjustments. But don't be like, I can't believe you even said that. I can't believe. Yes, let them say whatever it is that they're feeling at that time. I know y'all, some of y'all off the gentle parenting and the thing or whatever, but I'm telling you,
they're gonna pop off somewhere. So
it's helpful.
They let them do it with you in another place.
Yeah. So promote the kindness and inclusion. I just read a story about this woman who she was trying to gentle parent her kid over the holiday at her mama's house. And
I know they messed that up.
Listen, the grandmother said,
no, they was like, what the hell is this?
If you don't shut up talking to that baby like that, she better stop doing what she was doing something at the table. You better stop. And if you can't stop, get up and go to your room. Get up at this, that, and other. Go sit in that other room till you get yourself together.
K.O. K.O. Mortal Kombat.
And the woman that was telling the story, she said, at that point, I had a decision to make because she said my two other kids were sitting at the table,
watching your mama
mortified that
watching your mama disrespect you while you trying to
disrespect you and disrespect their brother. So she said, I had a decision to make. I had to go in the room.
Patty.
She said,
to let her anger out by herself.
She said, I had to let my child cry in my arms, whatever. And I think she said they left. Like they got in the car and said, oh no, this is not acceptable. So sometimes you got to figure out
boundaries.
I'm going to show you how to be empathetic. And when somebody mistreats you, I'm going to show you how to treat,
if it's your own mama.
even if it is your grandmother. You're not going to run this like that. So promote kindness and inclusion, create an environment that values kindness and inclusion. That's what I'm talking about right now. If the grandmama can't be kind and your kids are mortified, that how many stories have I heard over my lifetime of people that had the meanest grandmothers and they still trying to get over the trauma of what, even in the comments of that story, people were talking about, that's the way my mama was, this is what happened, and I'm trying to do right. You know what I'm saying? People are trying to recover from people not being kind in your own family.
Here's the thing, why are you defending something that got you all in the chokehold?
Yeah.
That's the other thing. I'm like, stop defending things that was detrimental to you, talking about, well, that was the right thing to do. I'm like, you all messed up because of that. Don't be trying to put that on the next generation.
I really respected that.
Wellness.
I really respected that. I really respected that. She didn't just sit there
and take it.
And she went, got her.
Because she knew the kids were watching.
So. Yeah. So that, again, that's how you cultivate compassion, kindness, inclusion, encourage your kids to be kind to their classmates, their siblings, their relatives, which is sometimes can be the hardest people to be kind to. So again, we're coming out the holidays and I know y'all got stories. I know you do because it's just the way it goes.
It's families.
All right.
But you're not the Bearzados.
Yeah. Oh, Lord have mercy. That's
Shout
so
out
good.
to the Bearzados. It's the Bear if you don't watch on FX and Hulu.
All right. Read books, tell stories. There's so many books now out that talk about how to have compassion.
Now, y'all gonna call them the soft books. Why you got my baby with these soft books? Because everybody can't be a thug 24/7.
How to care about other people. And this will help your children develop a deeper understanding of what it means to be compassionate, how important it is, and hopefully be inspirational and good conversations for you to have about the characters in the book, the story, what it meant, do they ever feel like that? These are the ways that you cultivate compassion in your children's lives. And I'm all about the babies.
All about the babies. Now here's the thing, as we've been talking, some of y'all are like, that sounds exciting. That sounds like fun. Some of y'all are like, I don't know about all this. Like, I don't know about that compassion. This seemed like it might be a little hard for me. I don't even know what y'all talking about, et cetera, et cetera. So if you like, go back and listen to this episode again.
Take notes.
Take notes. keep being repetitive with the words. But there are tools that can help you. There's compassion-focused therapy. I just learned about this today. So it's a therapeutic approach that focuses on developing compassion for yourself or others. So it's therapy involved, okay? And it involves
a professional
exercises, techniques, professionals, people who do this. They ain't new to this. They true to this. But it's about
they have degrees in it.
Experiencing compassion, enhancing compassion, recognizing compassion, dealing with compassionate imagery, writing compassionate letters, doing compassionate mind training. It sounds very woo, but some of us need a little extra help. That's why I said some of y'all been thugging for so long.
You don't know how
you on the Polly Pocket, and not these newfangled Polly Pockets. The Polly Pockets I grew up with, where if you blink, you gonna lose that hole in the carpet. She gone. Okay, so some of y'all got Polly Pocket compassion, and you might need a little something extra. Okay, there's also compassion cultivation training. Again, just learning these things. So it's actually a structured program. Okay, like I guess Alcoholics Anonymous type group situation. And again, it's about designed to cultivate compassion and empathy. So it's meditation, visualization, cognitive exercises, things in your brain so you can figure out like, oh, my brain wiring is a little bit different. I got to get to the compassion in a different way. And again, it's about developing compassion towards yourself and others. Because usually, if you can't develop compassion for others, that probably means you don't have enough for yourself.
Absolutely.
We'll leave it. That's like the big bomb that we go drop on you. But compassion for others is difficult if you don't have compassion for yourself. So the more you start working on your self-compassion, the greater your compassion for others will be. And Google is your friend if you have more things to discover about those two things or a bunch of other stuff we ain't named that I'm sure is out there for you.
And just remember, compassion doesn't equal soft. I know some of y'all are thinking that. I ain't no punk. I ain't going out like that. This, and that. Compassion does not equal soft. You can have compassion and still be a bad boss, whatever. You can still be you can still be the thing you aspire to be. Compassion doesn't negate that. You just have to learn how to use it in the right way. I guess that's the best way I can say that.
And don't assume that just because if you have a reputation for being nasty and rude or whatever, because you think that's what
I'm
bosses
100% that.
You know what I mean?
You know.
This is a random example, but I was watching Cruella for the first time over Thanksgiving, and there was, Devil Wears Prada. Like, we all got that. Like, okay, if you want to get to that level, then you got to be. But all of those people were really softies on the inside at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can only be hard again, but for so long. Even the hardest people out there, they ain't hard 24/7. They just ain't hard around you. They got some people that they let their guard down around. So let's stop telling each other tales in 2024. How about that?
Yes. So understanding the meaning and significance of compassion, trying to develop habits that foster compassion, utilizing various tools and techniques, therapy, professionals if you need them.
Whatever you need.
It will help you to embark on this journey of intention for compassion. And hopefully, if we develop it within ourselves, it can be a ripple effect out to other people.
It's always the goal.
It has the power to transform our well-being, the well-being of our family dynamics, the well-being of our loved ones, the well-being of people around us, which again, then goes out to the rest of the world, hopefully, if we do it right. All right. And so that is part of the journey to generational wellness. If you got kids that you know are nasty, say nasty things to people, you better look at the man in the mirror, because whatever they're saying, they heard you say it somewhere. I was thinking man in the mirror, but that wasn't the right tune. I'm looking at the man in the mirror. That's
not Michael's version.
But if you have kids that are rude and nasty to people and you're always saying, why did you say that? Why would you say that to them? You better kind of do some self-reflection and looking and see what you've heard people say. I have heard these little kids on the Instagram saying some stuff. I was like, where did they get that from? They're only
sometimes
3.
People are clout chasing. Again, the internet's not real. But I will say this. Kids can be really evil. They kind of sometimes come out the womb hella evil. So part of that is curving and directing them into a place of compassion, because maybe they didn't get it from you. Maybe you and whoever you had the baby with is mad nice. But that one right there came out the Thanos universe and the Thanos factory. So sometimes they just need, that's what it is. You're rearing the child in the direction they want to go. They might not go that way, but you got to try.
And listen, okay? I'm going to be honest. My generation, if they being raised by their grandmama that ain't into no gentle parenting, it's probably going to come out. The snapbacks is going to be quick and immediate. But anyway, we are trying to get to generational wellness. We're trying to create that path, dig it deeper, make it wider so that everybody can come along on the path. And I think my 4 C's, that compassion, consideration, communication, and cooperation, is going to help. That's my goal for the year. Those are my intentions for the year, to look and see, how can I be more compassionate? How can I be more considerate? How can I communicate better? And how can I cooperate better? And starting with the people in my house, and then trickling it out, hopefully, to other people as we go throughout the year. So come back next week. Our intention is to talk about consideration and how that is the next block in this journey we're taking in 2024, that I believe the Lord dropped those words down to me.
Big facts. Building blocks for the first quarter?
Maybe.
Anyway, whatever blocks we build in, you will not know about it if you are not subscribed to YouTube channel. Follow us on IG, Facebook, fan base. We're Create Generational Wellness on all the platforms. I'm still revamping and working on some things. But if you follow us, you'll figure out all the things that we're working on. So you can stay in the know and to tell a friend to tell a friend. We will be back next week. We'll probably be in a different location. I'm not even going to lie to you or hold you. So Hopefully we'll be here at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time with no issue, but we won't be at our house. So we'll just gotta keep you posted as to what's happening. Anyway, we'll be here regardless.
We're taking a road trip.
We're taking a road trip.
Say a prayer for us.
All right. So,
All right.
We'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Love ya.